Hello everyone, tonight we are plunging headfirst into an unimaginable fight for survival alone in the Arctic after a plane crash. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Drop a comment below with your location and local time. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You come to with your head buzzing from impact, white light flashing at the edges of your vision. The fuselage tilts steeply, doors torn away, windows shattered like ice. Your body aches in a dozen places, each breath a razor-sharp reminder that your world has changed forever. You push your forehead against the cold metal frame, warmth of blood trickling into your eyes. The Arctic wind howls through the gap where the cabin once sealed against this merciless expanse. Above, gray clouds churn, below the endless white stretches farther than you can see. Instinct kicks in, and you shove yourself halfway out of the wreck legs, dangling into the snow. Your boots, half buried, drag against icy shards. You feel the mesh of wiring poke your palms as you scramble free, a metallic taste on your tongue. The engine's mangled carcass groans in protest under the weight of shifting ice. You haul yourself onto the uneven surface, every muscle screaming, but you refuse to lie down and let this frozen grave claim you. Your first task, assess your injuries. You unstrap the shoulder harness, wincing as the rivets cut into your shoulders. One sleeve is soaked dark blood or hydraulic fluid, you can't tell. You press your fingers against the damp fabric. Warmth seeps into your fingertips. Your left leg throbs, pain radiating from a deep bruise near the shin. But adrenaline dulls the worst of it, and it's enough to stand. The storm decides to announce itself. A sudden gust rattles the plane's twisted skeleton, whipping snow across the wreck. You plant your hands on the aluminum floor and lean into the wind, eyes squinting as the white noise threatens to overrun your senses. Snow pelts you like tiny needles. Each breath burns your throat. You pull your parka hood tighter, but the draft slips in through every torn seam. Your mind flashes back to the safety briefing in the event of a forced landing. That voice, calm and reassuring, seems like a cruel joke now. No emergency field, just an endless tundra. No rescue team on standby, just you and the cold. You think back to the crocodile poop sunscreen. No wrong story. This is something darker. You stagger away from the wreck, dragging one leg behind the other until you find a patch of warped metal you can huddle behind. The wind thumps against it, reverberating through your chest like a pulse. You squat low, back pressed against the debris, trying to catch your breath. Your vision jiggles with spots of white hypothermia creeping in. Panic whispers at the edges of your mind. You force yourself to breathe evenly, matching the rhythm of that howling gust. Every inhalation tastes like ice. You close your eyes for a moment, picturing home, the warm kitchen, the hum of conversation, a steaming cup of coffee clasped between your hands. Use that memory like a torch in the tunnel. Push the fear back. Shivering racks your body, but you know movement generates heat. You rise unsteadily and peer back at the twisted cabin. You imagine gathering supplies, first aid kit, flare's radio transmitter. Those cargo pockets might hold something. You resolve to fight on, scrabbling over remnants of torn upholstery and loose panels. As you sift through the wreck, you find the survival kit miraculously intact. A half-empty first aid pouch, a small flare gun, a mylar blanket that feels brittle in your hands. You pocket what you can, a handful of antiseptic wipes, a compact multi-tool, a few ration bars still wrapped in faded plastic. Water, none. You remember the slogan, "Stay put until rescued." But rescue won't find you if you let the cold claim you first. You scan the horizon. Jagged ice formations glint in dull light. No landmarks, just the same bleached scenery in every direction. Radio pings in your pack. You fumble for the transmitter, but static snaps in your ears. Every button you press crackles back emptiness. You curse under your breath, fingers numb, and stuff it back into your coat. This crash might have pulled half the passengers instantly, but you're alive. That's the first victory. Pain is a luxury you can't afford. You wrap the mylar blanket around your shoulders, reflecting scant warmth back to your core. Your breath fogs inside the hood, but you force your teeth to chatter. Movement is your ally, so you lean forward and take one step, then another, each footfall muffled by snow and dread. The wind tries to claim you, but you press on tracking a faint ridge of higher ground you spotted earlier. Every step is a gamble. A sinkhole of hidden crevasse could swallow you whole. You remember the mythic warnings, fall in, and the ice will lock you down an eternal tomb. Keep light on your feet, test each step with the toe of your boot. A low groan rumbles beneath your boots, and you freeze. The hull shifts, unnatural sounds echoing as metal bends further into the snow. You sprint a few yards away, heart hammering back, pressed against a jagged chunk of wing. Dusting your jacket free of fresh snow, you pause and stare back. Debris quivers like it wants to collapse. You breathe in, reminding yourself how alive you are. In that instant, you realize survival is no longer hypothetical. It's the only option. Pain, cold fear, they're background actors in this unrelenting drama. You are both audience and protagonist. You remind yourself, keep moving, keep breathing, keep holding on to this relentless will to live. The ridge looms closer now, a slender promise against the flat horizon. You tighten your jaw, pull the hood even tighter, and plant your uninjured foot before the other. The Arctic is watching you, an indifferent frozen god, but you might just outlast it. You press yourself low against the warped panel of fuselage, heartbeat thrumming in your ears as the Arctic wind screams around you. Every gust feels like a fist, striking your ribs, stealing warmth with each strike. The metal you huddle against offers scant protection, its cold surface siphoning heat from your parka like a vampire. You draw your knees up, wrapping your arms around them, but the tremors coursing through your body refuse to subside. This isn't ordinary shivering. It's a full-body convulsion that rattles your bones, a warning that your core temperature is on a deadly slide. Your thoughts jolt to the supplies you salvaged. Mylar blanket ration bars, multi-tool flare gun. There isn't a single item designed to thwart the wind's ferocity. It almost feels sentient, as though the storm itself recognizes your fragile state and intensifies to finish you off. You shove your fingers into your jacket pockets, seeking the comforting shape of the mylar, but it's folded so small it feels more like a scrap of foil. You pull it free, teeth chattering, and wrap it around your shoulders. The reflective surface shimmers weakly, catching stray light and redirecting it back, an echo of heat that helps if only a fraction. Your breath spirals out in plumes of mist, and you draw the blanket hood tight over your own. Every inhale burns like sparks across raw skin. Exhaling is no relief. You consider lighting a fire if you could find fuel, but out here with snow everywhere, you have nothing but the plane's carbon-soaked fibers and wiring. Even if you set them alight, the flames would be swallowed almost instantly by the frozen air. Instinct pushes you forward. You climb to your feet, despite the agony pulsing in your ankles and wrists. The wind feels heavier now, as though gravity itself has shifted to work against you. You take a cautious step onto the snow toes, crunching through a shallow drift. The ground wobbles beneath you, soft and hollow, a warning of hidden crevasses. Every sense screams at you to stop, but you know that staying in one place means certain death. You scan the horizon for landmarks. There, a faint rise to your left, an outcropping of ice that might break the wind. If you can reach it, maybe you can dig a shallow trench and shield yourself long enough to plant a fire. You begin the crawl hands, scuffing against the snowdrift knees, sinking into the cold crust. Each movement is agony, as if pins and needles have been replaced by shards of glass. Yet you refuse to pause. Your body obeys you like a willful servant. Purpose fuels every strained muscle. Halfway there, the wind flings a wave of freezing crystals into your face. You stumble, losing the fragile foothold you'd found. You crash onto your side breath whooshing from your lungs in a painful gasp. The mylar blanket twists beneath you, useless now. You push up on one elbow, gripping the snow, but the jagged ice rips at your thin gloves, drawing heated blood from your palm. You taste iron in your mouth and curse yourself for the momentary weakness. You force your hand against your chest, steadying yourself. The pain crushes in your stomach, but there's a flicker of triumph too. You're still conscious, still moving. You roll onto your back, stare up at a sky painted in dull grays, and force yourself to exhale slowly. With each breath, you count in your head 1, 2, 3, until your chest stops rising and falling like a ragged bellows. Seizing the moment, you kick out with both legs and lever yourself back to standing. Your body screams betrayal, but the thought of lying here frozen ignites a spark of fury. You press forward again, staggering toward the ice outcropping. Blood pumps in your ears and throat, a drumbeat of your fight to stay alive. Reaching the shelter of the rise, you collapse against its lee side. This small hump of ice carries less wind enough to let you focus on your bruised ribs. You squat low and push your palms into the snow, digging until you find firmer ground. Then you carve a shallow pit, enough to tuck your body into. It's not much, but it removes the worst of the wind's bite. You crawl inside and lie chest down back against the ice wall. The pressure of the snow around your torso feels grounding, like being held. You flex your arms and legs to stir warmth where fear had numbed everything. Your breath echoes in the hollow dugout. You spin the multi-tool in your fingers, its serrated blade glinting. You could try to spark a fire if only you had tinder. Inside your coat, you find a few damp cloth wipes and a mangled paper safety card. Both are soaked. You press the wipes between your palms, rubbing furiously to generate heat, but droplets of liquid freeze almost immediately. You pause and consider the flare gun. If you risk firing it, you might scare off any polar bears or attract them. But the flare's fleeting heat might be enough to stave off the freeze for minutes. You retract the tool and press your cheek against the ice, soaking in its slight radiance. A misguided comfort, considering it originates from the sun's light reflected on the Arctic floor. Still, it reminds you of day proof that time still moves even if you feel suspended in this nightmare. You dare to sit up and pry open your pack. Ration bars, 3 small wedges of concentrated calories. You tear one open with numb fingers and bite into the crumbly paste. The taste is stale, but it hits your gut like fuel. You chew methodically, letting the sweetness dissolve your despair. Energy flares behind your eyes and tingles in your arms. You pocket the rest, promising yourself you'll ration them precisely. Then you unfold the mylar blanket once again, wrapping it around your torso and tucking it beneath your chest. It clings like a second skin. Instinctively, you curl into a ball, knees to chest shoulders, shielding your throat. The ice hump blocks most of the wind now. Your own mass radiates warmth into the confined space. For the first time since the crash, the shivers slow to a jitter. You close your eyes, focusing on the steady pulse in your throat, on the small fire growing in your stomach. Minutes pass. The convulsing eases into tremors. You whisper to yourself, "Survive one more minute, one more, and then another." You remind yourself that hypothermia is a predator of patience. Slow, steady breathing can outlast the cold if you don't let panic overtake you. You shift on your side and press your back fully against the ice. It's counterintuitive, but the compacted snow holds some residual heat. You rest your head against the cold wall and slide your mittens off one hand, exposing rough fingertips. You tap your forehead, reminding yourself you're still here. You're alive. You might be shivering, but the fact that you can think proves warmth remains inside. A distant howl drifts across the expanse, not wind this time, but the cry of some unseen creature. Your heart stutters. You hold your breath. Was it a wolf? A polar bear? The thought sends adrenaline surging through your veins, replacing frozen malaise with fierce alertness. You press your ear to the ice and listen as the sound recedes, swallowed by the white silence. You exhale, ashamed of the terror, and let out a breathy laugh. Fear can keep you alive, but only if it doesn't paralyze you. You muster the strength to rise on one elbow. The wind, partially blocked, no longer feels like a roaring bull. You push up to your knees, gripping the ice edge. Your muscles protest, but you lock your jaw and force upward. Standing feels unsteady, but you test the ground, making sure your foothold is secure. Then you pull yourself fully vertical. Now, with this modest shelter, you have breathing room time to formulate what's next. You skim the horizon, searching for the ridge you aimed for before the crash. It's still out there, a thin line of shadow against the uniform white. Reaching it means better protection, maybe even deadwood, from trapped driftwood tossed by storms. Survival demands that you keep moving, but movement must be calculated. At least here, you've bought yourself a moment enough to stop shivering like a rag doll. Your breath steadies, chest rising and falling in a controlled rhythm. The cold still gnaws at your joints, but the worst throbs have dulled. You catch your reflection in a fragment of polished metal embedded in the ice, a pale face framed by frost-matted hair, eyes burning with resolve. This is what survival looks like, raw, ragged, and unbowed. With your will reforged, you step out of the trench. Each foot sinks into the drift, but you're ready. The Arctic wind might shriek, but you have found a rhythm to fight back. You grab the multi-tool from your waistband, flick the blade open, and begin carving a deeper trench at the base of the outcropping, reinforcing your shelter. You work methodically, each cut a declaration you refuse to bow to the cold. As you carve, you think of the first victory surviving the initial freeze. You remind yourself that winter can be beaten 1 inch of heat at a time. It's not glamorous, but it's real. Claws of ice can be blunted by grit. You force your lips into a thin smile, acknowledging the truth you are still here. You realize your water supplies are gone when you reach into your pocket and find only empty wrappers and frostbitten fingers. Thirst strikes like an electric shock through your chest, each beat demanding relief. You taste metal and salt on your tongue. Your mouth is so dry that even saliva feels like sandpaper. The ration bars you've been chewing burn in your stomach without a drop to wash them down. Your throat constricts, mind warping around the singular need to hydrate. The Arctic's deceptive beauty mocks you, an ocean of ice, yet not a drop of liquid water in sight. You scan the wreck for bottles, empty, shattered, encased in ice. There were maybe 3 small canteens in the emergency kit, now vanished into the crash's chaos. Your fingers wrench at your parka pockets one more time, but there is nothing left that wasn't already turned inside out. Panic flickers at the edge of your awareness. You cannot outlast dehydration and hypothermia at once. One will kill you faster than the other. You steel yourself and kneel beside the plane's twisted engine housing, where the metal retains a faint warmth from the crash's heat. Ice glints off every surface. You scoop up a handful of the pure white powder and cram it into the cup you discovered in the kit, melted you hope. You take out your small butane stove, knowing fuel is precious. You clear snow from around the stove's base and shield it with a torn piece of seat upholstery. Below you scavenge bits of wiring insulator, blackened brittle strands that might catch flame. Your hands tremble violently as you hook the fuel cartridge to the stove. Each flick of your glove's Velcro strap is a struggle, the seam biting into numb skin. You manage to tighten the connection and turn the valve. It hisses like a wounded animal. You pull a lighter from your pack, an emergency Bic half full with butane. Your thumb drags over the flint wheel again and again until a tiny orange spark leaps to life. You guide it to the stove's nozzle, and a wavering flame roars upward, licking the cold air before steadying into a thin blue cone. You exhale relief so forcefully that your breath fogs around the flame. You place the cup of snow onto the stove's ring, the ice clattering against the metal. The wind presses against you, threatening to snuff out your precious flame. You crouch low, using your body to shield the stove. Heat blasts into your face. For a moment, your cheeks thaw, and you can feel warmth in your nose. The snow at the bottom of the cup starts to transform. Edges turn to water beads, forming like tiny jewels. Guilt pricks at you. The fire's smoke might draw predators or even rescuers, but plastic and fabric burn black, releasing chemical fumes. Yet you have no choice. Hydration is non-negotiable. You stir the melting ice with the end of a broken zipper, listening to the hiss as it turns liquid. Steam curls upward, carrying the faint tang of kerosene. The stove sputters when the wind gusts. You press down on the cup's rim to keep it steady. You remember a survival manual tip: drink warm water to stoke your core. Cold water could shock your system. As the last ice chunks melt, you slide the cup toward you and tilt your head back. You sip first drop, second drop, each swallow smoothing the scorched passage of your throat. It tastes faintly metallic, but it's the most glorious flavor you've ever known. Endorphins surge through you, dulling the ache in your head and joint pain. You drain half the cup, then pause, savoring the sensation of moisture sliding down your throat, soothing the rawness. Thirst still gnaws, but hunger and cold recede into the background. You set the cup aside and add more snow. The stove's flame flickers as you refill and restart the melting. Your gaze drifts across the frozen plain. Every ridge, every crack, every glimmering hollow reminds you of how exposed you are. But right here, you have fluid coursing through your veins instead of crystallized desolation. As the second batch of water heats, you retrieve a small antiseptic wipe and tear off a corner. You dab at your dry lips and the corners of your mouth, cracking under the strain of cold and lack of hydration. Pain pulses, but moisture stings like acid on raw skin, yet it's a price worth paying. Your lips close over the cup again, and you gulp the water, feeling it flood your stomach and spread warmth through your torso. Each gulp is a promise you will not give in. The stove sighs as the fuel dwindles. You measure carefully, afraid you won't have enough for a third melt. You shove the zipper back into the stove pocket, noting the hissing echo in your ears. Your fingers are numb by now. Peppering them with heat helps. You rub your palms together over the stove's glow. Drawing a deep breath, you consider next steps. The water gives you strength to move, but only if you can replenish it. You need a reliable source, perhaps a frozen creek you glimpsed earlier, or pack ice hidden beneath drift mounds. You recall that ice near bodies of water can be clearer and denser, melting more efficiently and containing fewer trapped air bubbles. You pack away the stove and cup, tucking both into your parka. The metal cup's rim is hot, so you wrap it in cloth. Your parka's inner pocket becomes a makeshift insulated sleeve. You down the last of the water, savoring the last warmth. The rations in your pack seem less thorny now. You might even make an energy bar last another day. Your chest feels buoyant. The immediate crisis, dehydration, has receded. The stove's embers glow briefly before sputtering out. You press the valve closed and close your eyes, letting the quiet of the Arctic envelop you. You repeat a mantra under your breath. Water, fuel, fire. Always consider the flame's value. You rise stiffly, muscles protesting, but you take a sip of water directly from the last melted drop, sealing your victory over immediate thirst. Your stomach rumbles at the ration bars, begging for more food, but you ignore it. Hydration is priority. You tuck your hands deep into your pockets, palms warming against the remaining embers in your cup. Ahead, the frozen stream beckons. The ice's surface is smooth and glass-like. You will test its integrity and harvest a chunk for melting. The notion of pooling resources into one fire repels wastefulness. There must be deadwood or driftwood buried under snow berms. Even a splinter can feed the flame for crucial minutes. You take a step forward, water's warmth pulsing through your limbs, and your mind clears. The blinding white landscape no longer feels like a prison, but a challenge. You have mastered one vital element, water. Now, armed with knowledge and a shaky supply of fuel, you must press on to secure more. Your boots crunch in unison with the storm's murmur. Each step is deliberate, measured. You are planning ice scouting, fire crafting, resource stockpiling. The Arctic may be infinite cold, but you have finite means. You will stretch every ounce of energy, every drop of water to its limit. As you stride toward the translucent ribbon of ice water, you remind yourself thirst is conquered for now, but survival means staying 2 steps ahead of the freeze, and you intend to outthink the Arctic at every turn. Hunger claws at your gut like a ravenous beast. The crusty ration bars barely keep the growl at bay, and now your stomach twists into knots, demanding more. You crouch beside the frozen stream you spotted earlier, its glassy surface reflecting pale light. Beneath lies water, but you know fish lurk even in these frigid depths. Desperation warps your thoughts: eat raw fish or risk total starvation. You decide that even half-frozen flesh beats emptiness. You search the snowbank edge for rocks, flat, broad stones that might serve as improvised tools. You find one about the size of your palm, its edges jagged but serviceable. You chisel away at the thin layer of ice, covering a shallow pool. The ice cracks under your makeshift scraper shards, flying like brittle glass. Cold water seeps upward, and you peer into the murky gloom below. A dark shape flickers just out of reach. Your heart hammers with equal parts fear and hope. Your hands are numb, blistered from the stove, and the sun's reflection off the ice. You press your palm flat against the surface and clear frost with your fingers. You cup your hand in a scooping motion, then thrust it down as deep as you dare. A startled fish darts away, scales glittering silver before vanishing into deeper shadows. You curse and repeat scrub scoop and slap the water. Finally, a small char emerges, its body rigid with cold. You wrench it free and toss it into the snow beside you. Victory tastes salty on your lips. One fish isn't enough, but it's a start. You crack your back against a rock, then reach for your multi-tool. You snap the blade open and hold the fish by its tail, sliding the serrated edge along its underside. Flesh parts with a wet rasp, and you remove head and entrails in one smooth motion. Blood beads on your gloved fingers, briefly warming them. You pause to snatch a raw bite, cold chewy, but rich with protein. Your stomach clenches in delight. The fish's crisp snap as you bite proves you're alive, still capable of fighting. You fish twice more, each catch smaller than the last. By the third, your movements are almost fluid, an uneasy dance of instinct, honed by necessity. You stack the 3 bodies on a flat stone shove, another rock on top to keep scavengers away, then crouch low as you inspect them. Tiny tufts of white muscle peek through their torn flesh. You taste a bit more chewing slowly to break down sinew. Warmth flares in your chest as protein enters your system, nerves easing, vision sharpening. Your mind drifts to practicalities. Raw flesh may harbor bacteria, but the Arctic's cold tempers that risk. Better to eat now and survive than wait for cooked meals you may never see. You recall a video you watched once about Inuit hunters chewing seal liver raw when no fire was available. Survival demands brutal choices, and you steel yourself for them. You tear at the fish further, ripping strips of meat and salting them with a pinch of snow, an ironic seasoning, but the flakes dissolve into moisture that tames the metallic tang. You swallow chunk after chunk, the cold meat's slickness sliding down your throat, coating your belly in warmth. Each swallow feels like small sunbursts igniting inside you. The dull ache from earlier hunger recedes, replaced by renewed energy humming through your limbs. Swallowing the last bite, you wipe your mouth on a scrap of cloth from your pack. The blood and slime smear across fabric, but you don't mind. You tuck the cloth into your pocket, noting it might serve as improvised tinder if you need to start another fire in a pinch. You stare at the frozen stream stakes of ice, casting long, thin shadows. This body of water may yield more sustenance, but you've learned not to push your luck. 3 fish fill the immediate hunger gap. Now you need long-term strategy. You rise unsteadily, every muscle protesting, but the nutrient boost softens the protest. You scan the horizon, the ridge you sought, distant but visible. Beneath it, a cluster of driftwood lodged against an ice formation, likely remnants of a previous storm's detritus. That could fuel fires for days. But getting there requires traversing open ground, each step exposing you to wind, and possible predators drawn by fish remains. You gather your tools, multi-tool a scrap of cordage from seat upholstery and your nearly empty ration wrappers. You bundle them into an improvised pouch and tie it to your belt, keeping them within easy reach. Food scraps on the rocks risk attracting wildlife. You brush away bloodstains with snow, but you know some odor lingers. You hope it won't draw curious bears or wolves. You descend gently to the stream's bank, slipping your boots into icier water to rinse off fish residue. The cold bite on your feet is sharp, but you focus on the cool clarity washing away the sticky remnants. You pat your legs dry, then tuck your boots into boot covers to keep frost from creeping in. Gear secure, you tuck the rock bed catch into your pack, leaving behind only the stone you used as a tool, discardable but replaceable. You take a deep breath, tasting iron and snow in the air. Hunger no longer screams, but the stale ration bars you tucked away still beckon for a nibble later. You pocket 2 and stash the third at the bottom of your parka, ensuring you won't be tempted to devour all at once. Discipline is as crucial as instinct. Each bite could be a lifeline when fish runs dry. Turning away from the stream, you set your eyes on the horizon ridge. The journey there will test your limits, but now you carry food in your belly and water in your veins. Your hands no longer shake as violently. Raw fish, unpalatable though it is, has returned strength to your arms. You tighten the straps on your pack and adjust your hood, feeling the familiar pinch of frost around your face. Another glance at the stream assures you of its depth and breadth. Tentatively, you promise yourself to return if need arises. But for now, you focus on the driftwood trove lodged beneath that ice outcropping by the ridge. Wood is warmth incarnate fuel for fire that could melt ice, cook food, dry clothing, and lift spirits. You resolve to approach cautiously, testing every footstep on the way. As you begin the trek, the Arctic sun dips lower, casting long shadows over the white expanse. The cold intensifies again, reminding you that day's end brings a plunge in temperature. You quicken your pace, breath misting in short bursts. You recall the plan's secure, wood-reinforced shelter light but durable fire. Food and water are vital, but fire is salvation. Your body feels fuller, mind clearer. You repeat silently, feed the fire, fortify the shelter signal for rescue. Then you plant one cautious step after another, leaving a single line of footprints in the endless white. Each foot sinks a bit, but your strides grow surer. Hunger's specter has been exorcised, for now replaced by purpose advance toward warmth, comfort, and ultimately home. Every step toward the ridge feels like walking on hot coals, except colder, your blisters screaming agony with each shift of weight. You thought the fish would restore your strength, but now your feet, soaked from wading in the stream, threaten to betray you. The leather of your boots calves just enough to rub raw skin into bloody ribbons. You grit your teeth and force yourself forward, ignoring the pulsing pain that radiates through your arches. The terrain slopes upward gently at first, then more steeply, the snow packed hard by wind. You test each step with your toe, listening for hollow sounds that hint at hidden ice pockets. At one point, the snow gives way beneath you, and you pitch forward onto your hands, gasping as sharp ice bites into your palms. You push yourself up, palms bleeding, and press on each gust of wind, a reminder that standing still risks freezing solid. You cross a narrow ledge hemmed by jagged ice spires. Your balance teeters. You reach out to steady yourself against a crystalline outcrop. The contact jolts you with a ripple of pain, frostbite beginning to claim your fingertips. You turn your gloved hands inward, rubbing them against your thighs beneath your parka. The warmth of your body barely counters the creeping numbness. You recall the mylar blanket tucked in your pack and wrap it around your wrists, securing it with strips of cordage. The silver material cuts wind and holds some heat, but your fingers still throb with ice's slow assault. Your mind flashes back to your crampon training, how guides cautioned against slushy snow and thin ice. You didn't have crampons now, only boots laced too tight for comfort, too loose to grip. So you improvise. You twist bits of torn fabric around your soles, creating rough patches to increase traction. It helps just enough to let you press forward without slipping. Higher up, the wind slackens slightly, and you relish the reprieve. You pause at a small alcove carved into the ice, its ceiling bowed overhead like the hull of a boat. You sink to your knees, easing your blistered feet from your boots. Pain flares immediately, white hot and unforgiving. You peer at your toes, 2 toes on each foot, shrouded in pale, waxy skin. Frostbite. You feel a hollow thud in your chest. If the tissue dies, you risk gangrene infection and loss of mobility. Loss of mobility is a death sentence out here. You wrap your feet in the damp cloth wipes from the first aid kit, then cover them with the mylar to reflect any stray warmth. It does little. The ice in the air just refuses to relinquish its hold. You press your palms to your feet, massaging toward your heart. Your legs shake under the effort, but slowly, a faint warmth returns to the nerve endings. It may be temporary, but it's enough to let you stand. You slide your boots back on boots that pinch your toes further, but you force the laces tight for stability. You stand and test your weight, pain pulsing through every step, but movement is still possible. You don't give yourself the luxury of tears. Arctic survival isn't kind to sentiment. The slope steepens, and the snow underfoot shifts to a looser drift. Each step is laborious feat, sinking above your ankles. You brace against the wind, raising your torso forward to keep from sliding backward. The silver glint of the mylar strapped to your wrists pokes out of your coat sleeves, a constant flicker of hope. You plunge ahead, knowing that the ridge's shelter could preserve the warmth in your feet and give them any frostbite a fighting chance. Halfway up the final incline, the wind roars back to life, and a flurry of snow stings your face. You shield your eyes with one arm, the other clutching your pack. The valley below vanishes in a white blur, and you feel suspended in a snow globe, gone mad. A primal scream builds in your throat, a release of anger at the cold that tries to consume you. You swallow it down, converting rage into resolve. At last you crest the ridge. The landscape beyond unfolds like an endless white canvas, but here the snow is packed tight. The ground feels solid beneath your boots. You stagger a few paces from the crest and find a broad, shallow hollow where the wind's fury lessens. You lean heavily on the slope's back, breathing deeply, letting your fevered heart catch up. You pull off your gloves and inspect your hands. The fingertips are mottled grayish-purple, a warning sign. You rub them against your cheeks, basking in the residual warmth. Then you focus on your feet. You peel back one boot slowly, the damp fabric wiping across wounds blackened at the edges. You press a damp wipe to the worst blister, blurting out a hiss of pain. The antiseptic burns, but it's a small price for keeping infection at bay. You sit cross-legged back against the wind's lee and glance around. Driftwood lies scattered farther along the ridge, snagged on ice skeletons. That wood could burn hot and steady, drying your boots, warming your feet, and reviving frozen flesh. But first, you must secure it. You tug on the straps of your pack, retrieve the cordage, and fashion a loop around your thigh, an attempt at DIY gaiters to keep snow from invading your boots and exacerbating the blisters. Your body shudders from exertion and cold, but you feel the clarity that only hardship can deliver. Pain becomes a measuring stick. If it's bearable, you're still alive, still moving. You force yourself to stand the ground, spinning slightly as your calves protest the shift. You steady yourself with both hands pressed into the icy ridge wall, then release and step toward a fallen log protruding from the snow. You reach down and grasp the driftwood with gloves, lifting it. It's heavier than you expect a frozen solid, but when you drag it across the ice, it scrapes loud and ragged. You stop after a few feet, wind cutting at your lungs. You pause to breathe, then shove the log up the slope, dragging it to your hollow. Your fingers curl around the bark so tight they ache, but you won't drop this lifeline. Back in your makeshift shelter, you lean the log against the ice bank. You gather 3 more pieces, each about a foot long, and arrange them in a triangular stack. You lay the largest horizontal, then prop 2 others against it. They creak under their own weight, but they stand. This is firewood, your salvation. The thought warms you more than any flap of flame could. Your feet burn from the climb, but with the ridge's packed snow beneath you, the blister pain dulls to manageable throb. You test a step, a smooth glide, and breathe relief. You cup your hands around an imagined fire, envisioning the wood crackling sparks rising into the night sky, signals not just to rescue, but to your own fear that survival is possible. You sit on the cold ground, pack against your back, and flex your toes inside your boots, feeling the gentle give of warmth beneath. You stretch your legs, knees to chest, wrapping the mylar around your lower limbs to trap heat. The ridge's gentle incline and the wood pieces have given you purpose. You gaze out at the vast white expanse, pulse still racing from exertion, and whisper one blister at a time. Pain will exist, but so will hope. You are higher now, higher in elevation and in spirit. Each step forward defeats the cold's campaign. The Arctic may have scalded your feet, but you stepped over its threshold. You will build a fire here, you resolve, and melt both ice and doubt. Night arrives like a silent predator slipping across the ridge and swallowing the horizon in a single ravenous gulp. You watch dusk fade into inky blackness, the sky hemorrhaging pale stars that offer no warmth, only a taunting reminder of how small you are. Your breath puffs in frosty clouds that glow briefly in the starlight before vanishing into the void. The wood you hauled clacks softly as you shift it into a tighter pile, anticipating the fire that must come. But when you retrieve the flare gun from your belt, its chamber is frozen shut, valve seized by ice. You curse under your breath, fingers fumbling as the cold chews into your skin. Instead, you slide the metal cup into position above the driftwood stack and unpack the stove. The firewood is brittle and dripping with snowmelt, but desperation overrides practicality. You arrange a base of small twigs and shavings from your cordage scraps, layer a few wooden slivers around the stove's burner, and lean your cup on top. You strike the lighter, the flame sputters in protest like a dying heartbeat. It catches, but at a fraction of its former vigor. Flames lick the damp wood and spit, sizzling like desperate sailors clinging to a lifeboat. The scent of burning resin and wet bark curls around you, a strange comfort. You huddle close, knees drawn up to your chest, fingers brushing the stove's heat as though it might carry you across an ocean of cold. The fire sputters, then flares, then dwindles as smoke coils upward and dissipates into the freezing air. You press your palms against the stove's sides, feeling the burn echoing in your fingertips. Darkness would suffocate you without this flicker of light. You cup your hand around the stove, rotating it so the heat radiates evenly. Your eyelids droop with exhaustion, but you force them open. Hypothermia lurks a slow entombment. You cannot sleep deeply. Each hour of stasis steals precious warmth. Survival demands a restless guard, a vigilant dance between consciousness and collapse. Your teeth chatter, a high-pitched percussion that threatens to shatter your jaw. You wrap the mylar blanket tighter, tucking it beneath your back and around your shoulders like a brittle cocoon. You feel shards of cold wiggle inside your clothing, migrating along seams and freezing the air around your heart. You pull your hood down lower, shadowing your face. The darkness crushes against your eyelids, but the fire's glow paints your breath in strokes of bright orange. You focus on your body's rhythm, inhale, exhale, inhale. You can't risk rapid breathing. Oxygen starves your core of warmth. So you slow the pace, matching your pulse to the stove's sputter. When it roars, your heart races. When it wanes, you ease your pulse. Breathe with intent. This mantra keeps panic at bay. Somewhere behind you, the wind circles and howls, as if testing the sanctuary you carved. Snow flutters over the ridge crest, a dance of frozen petals. You glance up, watching the flurry chase stars across the sky. The illusion is mesmerizing until you remember how treacherous the dark can be. Predators hunt in the gloom. A crack in the ridge wall could conceal a hungry bear or ravenous wolf. You place the multi-tool beside your blade, open and ready. The metal feels heavy in your hand, a comforting weight. If something emerges from the blackness, you'll meet it with steel. The thought steadies you more than the stove ever could. You press the tool's spine into the soft ground, letting it anchor you. Your stomach rumbles faintly, a hollow growl that weighs down your chest. You retrieve the last ration bar, unwrapping it slowly, as though it's a fragile relic. The wrapper crinkles loud in the stillness, each rustle echoing in the vastness. You break the bar in half and chew deliberately, letting the dry crumbs absorb saliva before swallowing. Hunger pain dulls to a whisper. Now it's a manageable ache rather than a roar. You tuck the remaining half into an inner pocket to be eaten when the cold intensifies. The stove's flame sputters again, threatening extinction. You lean forward and scoop a handful of snow from a nearby drift, sprinkling it onto the firewood to redirect its moisture away from the base. Smoke flares and the flame steadies. You exhale relief, an ember of hope reborn. The air around you warms by a few precious degrees, enough to thaw the glassy film coating your goggles and to remind you that you still command some power over this landscape. Your eyelids feel heavy again, but you resist. If you let sleep take you now, you risk unconsciousness, and the cold will seize that moment to wrap its icy fingers around your heart. Instead, you gently prod the embers with a twig, exposing new fuel to the flame. You trace the glow with your eyes, memorizing how life can spark in the bleakest place. Time loses meaning. Minutes stretch into hours. The night seems infinite. You tally the flare gun's inoperable state. The dwindling rations your dwindling energy. But you also count small victories, feet that haven't frozen solid blisters, uninfected water still stored. You close your eyes, picturing the moment dawn breaks, when the sky will blush with color again. That future warmth must arrive soon, you tell yourself. As your body edges toward sleep's threshold, you convince yourself that a brief rest, 10 breaths, 20 won't tip the balance. You nestle into your hollow, letting your cheek press against the mylar. The stove's glow dances across your vision and drips away. You breathe with intention, drawing comfort from the pulsing warmth at your core. A sudden crack jolts you upright, the stove's fuel canister splitting under pressure. You yank it away, heart pounding, and extinguish the flame manually, sliding a board of debris over the embers. The world plunges into darkness, the ridge now an anonymous shape against starless sky. Panic claws at your chest as you fumble for the packed multi-tool ready for any threat that may emerge from the gloom. You swallow, forcing your pulse to steady. The temperature drops instantly. You feel the cold snatch away the fragile warmth the stove left behind. You wrap the mylar tighter, burying your face deeper into its reflective folds. The only light now is the faint glimmer of distant stars, and the illusion of heat vanishes. Memories of home flicker in your mind. Warm mugs, laughter, familiar smells, mocking reminders of a life paused. You inhale deeply, drawing resolve from those recollections. The ridge your wood and your will are all you have. You tuck your multi-tool against your chest, a talisman against the frozen dark. You shift curling into a tighter ball to trap what little body heat remains. You'll have to ration your warmth until dawn. Sleep must be broken into islands of consciousness, just enough rest to endure, never enough to drift away completely. Your lungs burn with every inhale, but you will not yield to the night's seduction. You count each heartbeat until your breathing slows, beat, breath, breath. The cold presses against your skin, seeking cracks in your resolve. But you are a fortress of intent, remorseless and alive. Darkness may reign for hours, but you hold the keys to daybreak in the log pile at your side. Your pulse slows to a low drum. You teeter on the edge of sleep, but your mind remains vigilant, listening for snow's shift, ice's crack, any whisper that signals danger or dawn. You remind yourself night is endless only until the sun returns. Hold on, hold breath, hold fire in the bones. And as the wind sighs across the ridge, you promise you will not let the darkness claim you. You stir awake with a start breath hitching as the edge of sleep slips from your grasp. The cold has burrowed deeper. Every limb aches with pins and ice. Your hollow is a tomb of frost, but your spirit refuses to resign. You sit up, nudging the log pile, as if it might yield even a dying spark. It does not. Instead, a thin veil of frost drifts from your hair. You swallow hard and force your feet over the icy edge of your trench, the ridge's hard surface greeting your boots with a stinging chill. Your radio transmitter rests heavy against your side, tethered by frayed cord. You haven't tried it since the crash, before static was your only companion. You press the power button, now praying the battery retained life against the merciless cold. The display flickers dimly before fading. You curse softly, but you won't abandon hope. You remove it and cup it between both hands, pressing it against your chest beneath the layers of mylar. Heartbeats pulse warmth into the device. Perhaps you can coax a signal later. Silence weighs in layers around you. The Arctic offers no song, only its own obsidian quiet. You lean back and trace the ridge's silhouette against the pre-dawn sky, where darkness bleeds into a bruise of purple. That shift means daylight is coming. Rescue could be close. Or perhaps you'll face another trial. Sunrise reveals nothing but emptiness, and the cold intensifies with the sun's feeble rays. Either way, you must act. You gather your gear with deliberate calm. The flare gun's barrel remains frozen, at least it's intact. Your ration bar, half eaten, feels like a monument in your pocket. You tuck the last bite against your chest, absorbing body heat to keep it from fracturing in the cold. Then you stand hips protesting and press your hand against the ridge's icy wall. You test the hollow's ceiling. It's solid, no collapse in sight. Your breath catches when you notice fresh tracks circling your hollow paw prints, wide and padded likely a lone Arctic fox. No larger predators have come, at least not yet. You exhale relief and exult in the small victory. Your shelter deterred the worst. Yet another reminder that beneath this monolithic white life thrives, and life can threaten. You pause to check the driftwood. Small snowdrifts have collected around it overnight, muffling its shape. You brush away the powder, revealing the bark's rough texture. The wood is damp, but not soaked through. You grasp the largest piece, testing its heft, then pocket the smaller shards. Perhaps later, if you find tinder, you can revive the fire. But now you must focus on movement. Traversing to higher ground triggers rescue signals, and a radio relay station might be within reach. Before leaving, you strip the mylar from your limbs and fold it neatly, storing it in a waterproof pocket. The reflective material can serve as a signaling mirror once the sun warms the sky. You tighten every buckle check each seam of your parka and bring your hands under your armpits to absorb body heat. Meticulous preparation will stretch your chances. You take the first step away from the ridge's lee. The wind grabs you immediately, as though surprised you dared leave. You lean into it, ankles wobbling, as the packed snow gives way to powder. You set your gaze on a distant silhouette, a jagged spire of rock protruding beyond the horizon. If your memory of the flight path is accurate, that formation lies closer to where the pilot hoped to glide in for rescue. It may also mark the edge of an ice field gap, revealing thin channels of seawater that could lead you north to potential ship traffic. Your stomach twists at the thought of more dehydration. Melted ice requires fuel, but right now distance is more critical. You set your teeth and press on. Each step you test the snow, listening for hollow pings that betray underlying ice. At one point, a sudden crack split the ground beneath you, jarring your spine. You leap aside, heart pounding, and whisper a promise: never step blindly. The ridge falls away behind you, and the wind intensifies. A drift circles your boots, blurring your path. You swallow panic and recall lessons. Plant your feet, firmly bend at the knees, and move slowly. You count each step in rhythm: toe, heel, toe, heel. Focus on the mechanics, not the void beneath you. About 50 yards from your hollow, you spot something unexpected. A glint of orange fabric tangled in a crevasse between two ice mounds. You freeze. That color couldn't be part of the landscape, likely another piece of your plane or survival equipment. Relief surges. You hurry toward it, boots scattering powder, until you reach the narrow gap. Peering in, you see a twisted bundle of seat cushion foam, bright as fire against the white. Nearby, a satellite phone case lies cracked open. Your pulse surges. You climb down cautiously, careful not to dislodge ice. You retrieve the foam, unsuitable for fuel, but insulated useful to pad frostbitten areas. The phone case reveals nothing but a ruined speaker and a few soaked wires. You toss both into your pack, compelled as if each object were a talisman. But then your eyes catch another glint, a small red container wedged deeper in the crevasse lip. You fish it out, a water purification tablet dispenser, half full. Elation crashes over you like warmth. You cradle the container, whispering thanks, as though you found gold. A mission emerges: locate water, purify it, and move. The tablet container alone beats a stove. You can melt ice gently in your cup, drop a tablet, and drink without worrying about chemical fumes. Survival's facets are clicking into place. You stash the foam under your parka for emergency insulation and secure the tablets. You free your radio transmitter from its pocket and power it again. This time, the screen flickers and holds. You press the send button on the SOS frequency: 3 dots, 3 dashes, 3 dots. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Silence. You try twice more, each attempt met with static. Yet static is better than nothing. Perhaps a snowmobile patrol might pick it up. A low rumble responds, faint, mechanical. Your head snaps up as a distant drone hums across the ice. Heart hammering, you scan the horizon. A speck of movement emerges. A snowcat tracks, glinting behind treads. You pound your fist against your parka and lift the radio to your lips. SOS plane, crash 1 survivor at. Your voice cracks, but the machine crackles back faintly, confirming your call. Tears sting your eyes, not from cold, but relief. Hope floods through as the machine's growl grows louder. You wave the radio, then the folded mylar, praying to be seen. The snowcat traverses the field, groaning under weight. Your limbs tremble as adrenaline surges back. Rescue is no longer a distant dream. It's a rumbling reality. As you wait, you consider the beat of the Arctic's heart, unforgiving, indifferent, but not impossible to conquer. You relive each step: fire, water, food, shelter, movement, signaling, and realize survival is a series of hard-won battles. Now you stand on the brink of the final one reunion with life beyond the ice. The snowcat skids to a halt a few yards away, and a voice echoes through the frosty air. Hold on, we've got you. You choke back sobs, each breath a precious victory. You slip to your knees, feeling the snow give way under your weight, and let the machine's warmth wash over you. In that moment, you understand the Arctic's lesson. It may strip you to your bones, but it also reveals the depth of your own resolve. And as the rescuers pull you into the cab and wrap you in blankets, you whisper to the ice, "Thank you for reminding me what it means to be alive." You stand at the edge of a vast frozen lake, its surface a seamless sheet of glass that mirrors the bruised sky. Your boots crunch on the snowbank toes, curled in cramped confinement, reminding you of the blisters you battled minutes ago. You draw in a breath, tasting metal and frost, and steel yourself for the next test. The ice beneath is your only path forward. One misstep, and you could plunge into the frigid abyss. You lean forward, hands braced on your knees, and press one boot's toe gently against the ice's lip. The surface trembles so faint you almost miss it. A hairline network of cracks spiderwebs out from the point, ghostly veins across the white. Your heart pounds. You edge your foot further, shifting weight ever so slightly, and listen for the ice's response. A distant hollow thunk answers, echoing like a drumbeat in a cathedral of cold. Your pulse stutters. Fear lights up every nerve ending. You recall warnings: clear ice is stronger than opaque, but thickness matters more. You press your gloved palm flat against the surface, feeling the vibration pulse into your bones. Beneath the glassy top, water shimmers darkly as though alive. You can see nothing but potential danger. The next step might be your last. You lift your boot and tap the ice with the heel sharp crack, quick recoil. The sound ricochets, sliding across the lake's breadth before dissolving into the wind. You press your ear to the ground, but only the hiss of distant gusts returns. You draw up your foot as though it might burn. Your breath puffs in the frigid air, freight layering your eyelashes. Beyond the safety of the shore lies your goal, driftwood lodged on a rocky islet, a treasure trove of timber that could sustain a fire unlike any you've managed so far. You need that wood to build a signal fire high enough to be spotted by aircraft. But first, you must cross this crystalline trap. You sit on your heels and retrieve the ice picks fashioned from sharp metal shards you salvaged at the crash. You engineered crude crampons from torn fabric and wiring bits, enough to give friction, not enough to guarantee safety. You fasten them to your boots, the straps biting into cold skin. Each buckle ratchets with a click that reverberates in your chest. You tuck stray ends into pockets to avoid snagging as you move. Taking a deep breath, you stand and push off. The first step is fluid, your eyes fixed on a spot 20 feet across the frozen expanse. With every stride, you jab the ice picks into the surface, testing its strength. At each plunge, your muscles tense, expecting the sheet to shatter beneath. But the picks hold, biting into the slippery veneer. You continue 9-10 steps, and then the ice sings. A sudden crack rips through the silence like a shotgun blast. You freeze mid-stride, heart leaping into your throat. The sheet beneath you fractures in a loud, resonant boom. Splintering lines spread outward, one to your left, one to the right, another racing behind you. You stand on a shrinking island of intact ice surrounded by a web of fissures. Panic roars up your spine. Your pulse drums so loud you can't hear the wind. Instinct propels you forward. You pivot on one boot and scramble back toward shore, picks slipping in the wet snow that seeps through microfractures. You lunge the ice flexing under weight like a trampoline threatening to catapult you into freezing water. You fling your pack ahead, hoping it lands on stable ground to keep your priorities within reach. The picks tear at the surface, igniting sparks in your mind that the ice might not hold another second. You fling an arm backward and hook it over the ice edge. The cool shears of water rise to meet your palm as the lake's trembling surface dips beneath. Your fingers numb instantly. Summoning every ounce of strength, you pull yourself up, risking a slip that would send you plunging. Your other hand scrapes against the ice, leaving a thin smear of blood, an offering to the Arctic gods. Breath ragged, you hoist your legs over the lip, knees colliding with jagged ice. You slump onto the bank, chest heaving as if you've outrun death itself. Snow sticks to your clothes, melting into dark patches where your blood has dripped. You lie back, staring at the sky, every breath reverberating through your chest. Minutes pass before your pulse calms and your racing thoughts quiet. You sit up and press the soles of your boots against the ice toes, flexing the fabric bindings of your makeshift crampons. The picks clatter as you tug them free, tossing them aside. Cold water drips from their serrated edges, sizzling as it contacts the frigid air. You inspect your boots, small cracks in the leather seal, but no direct exposure. Relief floods you, tempered by the knowledge that the path ahead still demands crossing. The web of fractures glistens beneath a thin layer of snow, an intricate pattern of broken geometry spreading across the lake's mirror. You know these lines are dangerous. Any added weight could widen them into chasms. But the driftwood's promise is too great to ignore. You need a plan that avoids repeating this misstep. You stand and retrieve your multi-tool, flipping open the pliers. You attach a length of cordage to the pack's D-ring and loop the other end around your wrist. This lifeline will keep you anchored to solid ground. Then you test the edge of the intact ice sheet, probing with a length of driftwood you stashed earlier. Each tap elicits faint ringing. You listen for the most resonant spots, thick ice, concealed beneath surface snow. With the lanyard secure, you step onto the lake again, this time edging forward at a crawl. You grip the cord tightly, feeling its fibers biting into your palm. Your boots flex cautiously, distributing weight across the surface. You hear nothing but your breath and the soft whisper of snow underfoot. The fractures remain behind you, like dead branches in a wreath. Halfway to the islet, you pause at an area where the ice seems thicker, the ringed glare of sunlight off denser layers. You wedge the driftwood probe beneath your foot and press down solid. Encouraged, you advance another 10 feet, moving with careful precision. The cord's tension presses against your wrist, anchoring you to the shore in case the ice gives way. Close now, you spot the driftwood cache, a tangle of bleached logs and branches smashed into the rocky protrusion. You exhale a breath so long you taste defeat's remnants giving way to triumph. You muster reserves of energy and lean forward, pressing picks into the clear ice with practiced strikes to secure your footing for the final push. A sudden crack slices through the cold air once more, louder and closer, snapping your heart in two. The ice at your feet flexes violently, bowing downward. Water floods the surface, surging around your boots like venomous serpents. Adrenaline floods your veins, shaking your limbs with urgency. You whirl, clutch the cord, and claw backward with gloved hands. The rough edges tear into your palms, but you don't feel the pain, only the primal drive to survive. You flatten your stomach against the ice, inching backward in an almost horizontal crawl. Each movement tests the ice's limit, but the cord tugs taut your line back to safety. You pause to plant your feet on a thicker patch, then scramble up onto the bank with a final frantic heave. You roll away from the edge, gasping in chilling air soaked to the waist. Your chest burns, lungs craving warmth and oxygen. You lie on your back, staring at the shifting sky, each breath a reminder that you dodged the lake's lethal embrace. Water seeps through your parka, chilling your core. You must act fast, or risk hypothermia's second assault. Shaking you, plant your palms on the snow and flip yourself upright. You brush snow from the driftwood and drag a large log to the very edge of the bank's lee. Shelter from the wind will help ignite a blaze. You gather smaller branches and twigs from the islet, using frozen clumps of moss and dry straps from your pack as tinder and pile them beneath the log. You kneel close and strike your multi-tool's flint against metal, spraying sparks onto the tinder. A faint glow appears, then a flicker, then a small flame curls around the crumpled cloth. Heat blossoms, banishing the biting cold for a moment. Steam curls off the log as the flame grows. You shelter it with your body rotating logs inward to feed the blaze. The driftwood crackles, spraying embers upward like a miniature aurora. You press your hands to the fire's heat, feeling warmth creep back into your soaked parka. Steam rises, carrying the scent of resin and smoke across the lake, perhaps a signal to rescuers watching from afar. You dig the cord free from your wrist and toss it aside, then retrieve the picks and pack them away. Your soaked boots drip water into the snow, but for the first time since dawn, you feel momentum shifting in your favor. The fire will buy time to dry gear, warm your core, and plan the final trek toward rescue. As flames dance beneath the frozen sky, you remember how close you came to ending here, swallowed by the lake's deceptive beauty. You press your forehead against your knees, closing your eyes for a fleeting moment of gratitude. The ice may crack, but you are unbroken. Cold embers glow beneath your fingertips as you stare across the lake, eyes straining for any sign of movement. The fire has revived you, searing warmth into limbs that thought they'd never feel again. You drag a log closer, feeding the blaze until it stands tall flames licking the damp air. Steam hisses as the frozen logs surrender their moisture. The sky, once a bruise of purple, shades into pale gray dawn, creeping closer. You tuck the multi-tool and tinder scraps back into your pack, feeling its added weight as a reassuring anchor to the world of the living. You haul yourself upright, boots stiff but functional, and step away from the fire's circle of life. Each stride echoes with resolve. The ridge beyond the lake is the next waypoint. But first you pause. There, over the dazzling white horizon, a shape hovers like a specter, a snow-dusted helicopter silhouette its rotors, whirring a soft lullaby of hope. Your heart vaults as adrenaline floods your veins, the cold suddenly irrelevant. You drop the empty cordage and sprint toward the lake's edge, flame-licked steam trailing behind you. The helicopter wheels low, skimming the ice's surface, and you know this moment will decide everything. You wave frantically, coat whipping around you like a flag of surrender and salvation. The pilot's shout is carried on the wind, thin and distant but unmistakable. Hold on. You hear the blades thunder overhead as they carve through the early light. Your mind flashes through everything: the crash, the storm's fury, the starving hunger, the frozen tears. Now rescue hovers within reach, yet you must earn it. You tear off a strip of mylar from your pack and reflect the fire's light upward. The sun, a pale ember on the horizon, catches the mirror like a beacon. The helicopter swerves toward you, a swirling silhouette that grows larger with each second. You stumble through the damp snowbank, each step laborious, but fueled by a singular purpose signal: survive ascend. You hoist the mylar above your head, its glare slicing through dawn's gloom. Your voice cracks as you shout, "Here, here!" The chopper dips and swoops in a tight circle, downdraft blasting flakes at your face. You shield your eyes, teeth chattering, heart racing. Then a moment of perfect clarity. The door slides open, revealing a rescuer's steady gaze, framed by a helmet's visor. He leans out, hand extended, grab on. Beneath his glove, you glimpse sympathy and urgency. You discard everything unnecessary, clinging to the mylar only long enough to secure it. You snatch the rescuer's hand, fingers numb but firm, and he hauls you into the cabin with a grunt of effort. Inside, warmth envelops you like a dream. Wool blankets, steaming cups of broth. Gentle voices. These are the languages of rescue. The pilot guides the helicopter skyward, and the ground rushes away beneath you. You press your forehead against the sidewall, watching the lake shrink and the ridge fade. Snow-laden ice fields stretch endlessly, but among them, your footprints remain a trail of endurance. The rescuer presses a thermal blanket around your shoulders, its foil whispering promises of heat. You exhale, chest loosening, as warmth seeps back into your extremities. The hum of the engine throbs through the cabin, a lullaby after the Arctic's relentless roar. You fold your arms around yourself, closing your eyes and letting relief wash over you. Your mind drifts back to the avalanche of challenges, frozen blisters near drowning, hopeless night watches. Now each stands as a testament to your will. You trace a gloved finger over the rough edge of your blistered boot, a souvenir of pain and triumph. The rescuer sees and offers a gentler blanket, her eyes kind but professional. You nod, letting her tuck the foil more snugly. The helicopter banks, revealing a sprawling ice field below you. A second rescue ship hovers in the distance, a flotilla dispatched after your SOS broadcast. Tears blur your vision, but you smile, knowing you will never be alone in such vastness again. You lean back, gaze fixed on the retreating horizon, and whisper a vow you will share this story, a chronicle of one person's defiance against the Arctic's might. Moments later, the helicopter descends toward a waiting base camp. Bright tents spike the ice like painted mushrooms. Faces emerge medics and fellow survivors, hurrying to meet the chopper's skid marks. You prepare to step off, every fiber of your body alive, with sensation, warmth, gratitude, the palpable thrum of life beyond survival. You scan the gathering team, each smile a reminder that rescue is not just a physical deliverance, but a reclamation of hope. As the helicopter's door opens, you stand unsteadily but resolute. You plant both boots on the ice, feeling the difference immediately. Firmness underfoot, not precarious thinness. You straighten hands, trembling but alive, and look back at the ridge you conquered. Your breath spirals in a gentle cloud, no longer a death sentence, but a celebration. A medic approaches, offering a warm drink and a steady arm. You accept, voice husky. "Thank you for finding me." The medic only nods, guiding you toward a heated tent. Inside, a row of cots beckons, each occupied by stories like yours. You settle onto one, wrapping the blanket tighter, and feel the tears slip free. Tears of relief, respect, and an overwhelming sense of survival. Outside, the Arctic stretches indifferent to your rescue. But inside this tent, life pulses with vigor. You close your eyes, listening to the murmurs of care. You'll be fine. Warm up slowly. We'll get you home. You inhale the scent of hot broth, the promise of warmth dissolving the last icicle in your chest. You lie back, muscles easing for the first time in days. Memories drift like snowflakes, each a shard of your journey. You think of fish plucked from ice, the crack of the lake beneath your steps, the fire's stubborn glow in the endless dark. You carried each moment as a lifeline. Now they become chapters in your story. A gentle hand touches your shoulder. Rest now. You nod, sinking into the cot, cocooned in blankets. Outside, the wind whispers across the ice. Inside, the hum of life thrums in harmony. You close your eyes, whispering a final promise to survive, to remember to live. By the time the pale sun dips below the horizon, you find yourself stumbling back toward the crash site's skeletal remains, driven by a need to fortify your refuge before the Arctic unleashes its next assault. The wind has calmed for now, leaving only an uneasy hush across the snowfield. You stare at the twisted fuselage, half buried in drift, its jagged edges glowing faintly in the waning light. The makeshift shelter you dug beneath a wing, once a tenuous sanctuary, needs reinforcement. Tonight's moon promises another storm, one that could bury you alive or tear your sanctuary to shreds. You unstrap the multi-tool and fuss with the parka pockets until you produce lengths of cordage scavenged from seat belts and wiring insulation. Your gloves are stiff with ice, but you weave the strips into a crude rope, knotting frayed ends into loops and hitches. The cold stings at your fingertips, but you ignore it, focusing on the task, strengthening the walls of your trench and the overhead canopy of torn upholstery. Surveying the wreck, you spot a half-intact seat cushion wedged between the wing strut and the fuselage. The foam is soaked and frozen, but pliable enough to serve as insulation. You jerk it free, silver lining glinting beneath the fabric, perhaps a thin mylar sheet embedded in the cushioning. You wrestle the stubby cushion toward your trench, each step an exercise in agony as your blistered feet protest. The cushion's bulk makes your pack sag, but you'll carry the weight gladly if it shields you from the coming blizzard. Reaching the trench's edge, you peel back a section of fuselage panel to enlarge the entrance, allowing more headroom, but sacrificing a bit of windbreak. In low light, the cut metal glimmers cruelly, but the extra space will let you crouch without smashing your helmet on the ceiling, saving your neck from further strain. You prop the torn cushion against the back wall, wedging it between two bent ribs of metal. Then you squeeze another cushion into the ceiling gap, overlapping the first to create layered padding. Next, you gather more scraps, fragments of the plane's insulation blanket, torn by the crash, but still boasting a silvery sheen. Despite their small size, they are invaluable. You press them into every crevice where cold air might intrude, the juncture between floor and wall along the roof line across the narrow doorway. With each placement, you imagine warmth seeping back into the cabin, a tiny victory against the omnipresent freeze. You haul in more material strips of leather from torn seats stiff and cracked. You cut them to length with the multi-tool's blade fashioning straps to cinch the cushions tightly against the metal frame. The straps chafe at your fingers as you pull them taut and secure them with half hitches. It's a laborious process. Your breath forms clouds of steam, your gloves become slick with condensation, and the cordage slices into your palms. Still, you press on knowing that a fortified shelter can mean the difference between life and death. Above you, the sky grows slate gray. You glance upward at the first gathering clouds, like smudges of charcoal spreading across a canvas. The wind picks up teasing flurries against the fuselage, rattling loose panels. You pause, fists clenched, and listen to the hollow roar building in the distance. A storm is on the move, swift, merciless. This is your last window of preparation. You turn your attention to the entrance, a narrow slit carved into the fuselage's side. You cover it with a heavy section of upholstery and latch it with a bent metal rod acting as a lever. The flap rustles as the wind tugs at its edges, but the rod holds firm. Next, you dig a series of shallow trenches leading away from the doorway to channel blowing snow under the flap rather than through it. Each shovel of snow builds a berm, a buffer against the storm's onslaught. With the structural reinforcements in place, you examine the interior. The ground is uneven and slick with slush from your earlier melting fires. You sweep away pooling moisture with your pack's corner and line the floor with patches of insulation fabric. You cover that with broken sections of seat frame, arranging them like a lattice to elevate your sleeping area above any water that might seep in. Then you drape another thin layer of the mylar blanket across your makeshift floor, reflective side up, to bounce any residual warmth back into your body. Your back aches from crouching, your legs tremble from the cold, but the shelter now feels robust, a small bunker against the storm. You sit on your heels and survey your handiwork. The cushions and insulation have woven a patchwork barrier across the worst gaps, and the overhead padding should stop icicles from plummeting onto your helmet. The door flap and snow berm will keep the worst wind and flying ice at bay. It's not perfect, but it is enough to buy you the precious hours needed to plan your next move. Turning to your final task, you retrieve the compact stove and position it near the entrance where it can vent heat outward without filling the interior with fumes. You pack snow around its base to trap heat inside the shelter's core. Then you light the stove, watching the blue flame dance with relief. Within moments, a ribbon of warmth curls through the cabin, evaporating lingering mist and frosting. You press your gloves back to the stove's housing. No pain, only warmth that blossoms through the layers of clothing. As the stove's warmth spreads, you huddle in the back corner of the shelter, drawing the mylar blanket tight around your shoulders. The layers of insulation cushion you against the metal walls, and the cushions overhead muffle the howl of the wind. Inside, it is a womb of warmth, a brief respite from the Arctic's tyranny. Outside, the storm arrives with furious crescendo. You hear the first sharp taps of ice shards pummeling the fuselage, followed by a roar as wind and snow collide against your barriers. The entrance flap rattles violently, but the snow berm holds firm. You press your palm against the metal wall and feel the tremor of the gale, then lean into it, drawing courage from your bulwarks. Time becomes a measured beat, the hiss of the stove, the thump of wind, your steady breath. You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the storm's song. In its fury, you find affirmation of your workmanship. The shelter stands. You remain inside, anchored by padding and resin-fueled heat, no longer prey, but participated in the storm's drama. Lightning of broken daylight flickers through tiny cracks, illuminating the patchwork interior in ghostly strobe. You stretch your aching limbs, flex toes against the insulated floor, and breathe deeply, tasting warmth rather than ice. You reach into your pocket for a small ration bar, breaking it in half and savoring the sweet crumbs as you watch the storm rage. Hunger fades, only the satisfaction of survival pulses in your veins. When the gale shows no signs of abating, you accept that sleep must wait until it subsides. Instead, you wrap the mylar tighter, nestle into your patched corner, and reflect on how fragile life has become and how far you've come since the crash. Each reinforcement is a testament to your tenacity, each knot and latch a beating retreat against nature's might. Outside, the Arctic storm bellows, but inside, you remain anchored. You have triumphed over doubt and cold. You press your forehead against the mylar wall and whisper to the storm, "Do your worst. I am ready." The stove's flame sputters and dies, plunging your sanctuary into an oppressive gloom. You groan as cold fingers snake along your spine, prying warmth from your core. The wood that crackled moments ago now smolders, embers glowing faintly like dying stars. You cup your hands around the stove's housing, but the heat is gone. Desperate, you wrench the fuel canister free, its valve frozen solid, unresponsive to your frantic twists. It's empty or seized. Either way, your lifeline has betrayed you. Panic stabs at your chest, but you force it down. You cannot let the cold win. You rise unsteadily, every muscle protesting, and press your palm against the pyretic embers. They smolder beneath ash, but can be coaxed back to life. You rummage through your tinder-supplied damp cloth, scraps fibrous insulation, threads a few flakes of resin caught in crevices. None are ideal, but you have no choice. You scrape the stove's metal base against a fragment of fuselage panel, sending sparks scattering across the tinder pile. A single ember catches in the insulation fibers, glowing brighter. You feed it small shreds of cloth breath, puffing softly to encourage a flicker. The ember catches, growing into a slender flame that quivers like a wounded thing. Relief blooms in your chest. You've resurrected the fire. It's weak, though. The stove's burned chamber is clogged with soot. You withdraw the multi-tool and employ the serrated blade to scrape away charred residue. Every stroke sends a plume of black dust into the air, coating your face. You cough once, twice, and ignore the rasp in your throat. When the chamber is clear, you reinsert a fresh wad of tinder and strike sparks again. The flame blooms brighter, licking the chamber walls. The moment of triumph is fleeting. Smoke billows as the flood of soot ignites and the flame sputters under the wet weight of your damp wood. You need dry fuel, something that hasn't been saturated with melting ice. You recall the stash of driftwood buried near the lake's edge, long shards that remained above the waterline, sheltered by snowbanks. You must fetch them now. You bundle the mylar around your torso, pulling it taut against the cold. You secure your multi-tool with cordage and slide the half-used ration bar into your parka, a backup hunger cure. Then you step out of the shelter, replacing the flap and bracing against the storm's gasp. The Arctic night is relentless. Wind-driven ice crystals sting your face. You shield your eyes, tilt your head down, and press forward, following the faint trail of snow that marks your route. Each footfall echoes with determination and dread. You navigate the trenches you carved to keep snow from overtaking the entrance. The wind howls overhead, threatening to collapse the access flap, but your reinforcements hold. You swing the flap aside and step onto packed snow, the fresh flurries swirling around you in ghostly eddies. The lake's embers of smoke mark the spot where you captured your signal fire before. You veer off toward the ridge that loomed distant before rescue arrived. Beneath its lee lies the driftwood cache, your key to lasting warmth. You set off toward the dim silhouette instincts, guiding your boots over hidden crevasses and unstable crusts. Snow flares in your face and you wipe it away with a trembling mitten. By the time you reach the cache, your vision blurs from cold and exhaustion. You crouch and brush the snow from the logs. They are dry near the interior of the pile, protected by the outer layers. You tug at the largest pieces, jerking them free. The wood is brittle, but intact, perfect fuel for a sustained fire. Your pack is too small to carry much, so you select 3 substantial logs and a handful of slender branches. You secure them with cordage into a makeshift bundle, then hoist the load onto your back. The weight strains your shoulders, but you welcome the burden. Fire is your salvation. You turn back toward the shelter, each step a negotiation between agony and relief. The wind intensifies, aiming its icy breath into your spine. You shuffle forward, carving a path through drifts that climb to your knees. Your fingers burn from contact with the cold bundle of branches. You clutch them tighter, willing your body to endure. Thought drifts to warmth, dreams of a roaring fire, cracking logs, and the hush of safety. Soon the shelter's entrance emerges a dark slit beneath the wing. You scramble inside, collapsing the flap behind you. The shelter's interior greets you with a deathly chill, the lingering heat from the stove, a distant memory. You set the wood next to the sickly flame and brush away layers of ash. First, you feed the slender branches into the stove's chamber. They ignite with a hiss, small flames dancing over resin pockets trapped in the wood. You coax them with gentle puffs, building a bed of coals. Next, you add the larger logs, sliding them in one by one. The transformation is immediate. A roar returns as flame engulfs the wood, sending golden heat radiating through the narrow space. You press your palm above the stove, relishing the warmth. Steam hisses as cold air meets the blaze, fogging the shelter momentarily before it clears. You lean back against the insulated wall, closing your eyes and letting the heat seep into frozen joints. The pain in your feet dulls, supplanted by comfort you never thought you'd feel again. You retrieve the leftover ration bar and break off a piece, chewing slowly as moisture from the fire's steam softens it. Each bite sends energy coursing through your muscles. You swallow and let the warmth follow, feeling it spread like wildfire behind your ribs. Hunger recedes, only planning remains. With fire restored, you attend to maintenance. You stoke the flames with fresh wood, adjusting the logs for optimal airflow. You sweep ash away from the stove's intake vents, ensuring efficient burn. You check the shelter's insulation, bracing loose cushions against the stove's radiant side to draw heat into the metal. You push snow back onto the berm outside, shoring up your fortress against the storm. Settling near the fire, you spread the mylar blanket across the floor, reflective side up. You remove your boots and socks, rubbing your feet to coax warmth back into frost-numbed toes. Pain flares as blood rushes into chilled tissues, but you grit your teeth and bear it. You stretch each toe, using the mylar to trap heat around them. The stove's flame pulses warmth that makes the blanket glow orange. You lean back, watching the shadows flicker on the patchwork walls. Relief and exhaustion war. Your eyelids droop, but you can't rest yet. The storm rages outside, testing your barriers. You must remain vigilant, monitor fuel levels, listen for creaks in the structure, and ensure your body temperature stays above the tipping point. You retrieve your radio transmitter and warm it between your palms. You press the power button and the screen flickers to life. Static greets you again, but you send another SOS burst. Then you listen, waiting for any response. Silence answers, but your faith is unbroken. The fire burns steadily now, a beacon of survival and hope. You tuck the transmitter back into your pocket near the stove's warmth. You trace the multi-tool's handle with your fingertips, appreciating its weight. It's more than a tool, it's your connection to life. Padding closer to the stove, you nestle into the mylar floor, curling into a tight ball to trap heat. The wood crackles and steam hisses, reminding you that warmth endures if you feed it. Night's black hand begins to lift hours away from dawn. You know you can't sleep deeply. Hypothermia lurks in unconsciousness. Instead, you close your eyes and rest in 20 breath increments, enough to recover, not enough to drift too far. You count 1, 2, 3, and on. The fire's glow shrinks the shelter's shadows, but your mind expands with gratitude for this second chance. The Arctic storm bellows outside, but inside the fire roars. You have cheated the cold once again, wresting heat from wood and will. You inhale the scent of resin and sweat, a primal perfume of survival. You whisper into the flickering light, "I will not die here." Darkness presses in as you lie curled beside the stove, its flames easing your frozen limbs, but unable to thaw the weight in your chest. Exhaustion claws at your mind, threading heavy thoughts with a prickling numbness. You close your eyes, but the memories won't let you rest. The safety briefing rattling in your ears, the last smile of the flight attendant, the mundane comfort of your morning coffee. Each recollection strikes like a pang of regret, moments you never imagined treasuring so fiercely. A ragged sob catches in your throat. Your tears freeze on your cheeks, tiny crystals that glint in the stove's glow. You press your mittened hands to your face, scraping the shards of ice away, but grief persists beneath. The Arctic's hush amplifies the ache. You are achingly, painfully alone, this far from home. The ache coalesces into a single raw emotion that buckles your spine and draws another stifled cry. In that instant, you embrace the full weight of what you've endured. Months of laughter echo from a distant past. The warmth of familial voices feels like an unreachable shore. You remember your mother's soft laugh when you were a child, the way your siblings' eyes sparkled with mischief, the promise you made to call after each trip. Those memories burn through the cold, igniting a flicker of fierce resolve within you. You rise to your knees, trembling as though the gaslight of grief courses through your veins. Tears continue to flow, freezing instantly, and your parka's fur-lined hood catches them like brittle pearls. You touch a fingers to your forehead, tracing the frozen track, and whisper into the stillness, "I won't leave them behind." The words echo back hollow, but truthful. You press your palms into the mylar floor, feeling its thin warmth. Every fiber of your being tells you to collapse, to let the cold claim you in solace. But another force memory tethered to love anchors you where despair would have undressed your will. You push yourself up and stand unsteadily, blood surging through your legs, shaking out the residue of tears. Moving toward the stove, you cup the flame's heat in your gloved fingers. You let the fire's warmth thaw the tear-frozen skin beneath your mittens. It stings, then burns alive with sensation. You inhale deeply, letting the resinous scent permeate your thoughts. Fueled by memory, you add another log, watching the fire roar to life with renewed vigor. Your breath steadies as you pace the narrow shelter, each step deliberate. You recall a photograph tucked in your wallet, one you clipped to your survival kit's lid. It's a snapshot of you and your partner standing at the beach, arms entwined as the sun set behind you. The memory floods your heart with longing and love, but also with unwavering purpose. You must survive to see that smile again, to touch that hand, to share another sunset. You unzip the inner pocket of your parka and retrieve the photograph, careful not to fold it. The colors have faded, but the warmth remains. You press it against your chest, letting your heartbeat echo beneath the paper. You allow a single breath to catch in your throat as the photo warms beneath your layers. The picture becomes a beacon in your mind's dark night proof, of something beyond this frozen world. You fold the photo and slip it back into the pocket, fingers curled around the memory. You run your hand over the mylar wall as though tracing a path home. The shelter rattles in response, the storm outside testing your barriers, but you stand firm. The grief that nearly shattered you now fuels determination stronger than any ration bar or flare gun. Hunger pangs remind you of your physical needs, but you ignore them momentarily. First, you must reaffirm your will. You step outside the shelter, bracing against the wind's assault, with arms splayed like an anchor. Snow whips your face, but the sting is distant now, dulled by purpose. You tilt your head to the sky and imagine sending your tears upward, each drop a vow to persevere. Inside, the stove's glow recedes into memory, but your inner fire blazes. You step back in and pad to the fold-out shelf you fashioned from a broken tray table. On it lies your survival kit, Flare's first aid, the flare gun, and a small journal you carved from packaging. You open the journal to a blank page, and with a stub of pencil, scrawl a message for any future rescuer. Survived day 12. Memory is my lifeline. I fight for those I love. You close the journal, heart pounding, and tuck it safely under the stove's warmth. The words settle like mortar, reinforcing your foundation of resolve. You circle the stove, once fingers outstretched to gather residual heat, and then sit cross-legged on the mylar floor. You lean against the padded wall, letting the collage of cushions cradle your aching back. The storm outside roars, but inside your chest resonates with a steady pulse of defiance. You replay the day's trials, the lake's treachery, the rancid fish, the frostbite seeping into your bones, and acknowledge each as a scar of survival. You let gratitude wash over pain for the strength to endure. A faint rumble drifts through the metal skin above the distant thump of a snowcat or helicopter rotor. You sit bolt upright, heart hammering, but then the sound fades, nothing more than wind. Yet your spirit remains unbroken. You breathe deeply, recalling that love can guide you through any void. The tears may freeze on your cheeks, but your heart remains incandescent. You close your eyes and focus on the warmth of memory laughter around a table, a gentle embrace, the veft lilt of voices you hold dear. You pour those memories into your bones, letting them pump through your veins like life-giving blood. You remind yourself that survival is not merely physical endurance. It's the commitment to live fully, to honor those memories with continued existence. When exhaustion presses in again, you allow your eyes to flutter closed. Not for long sleep, but for a momentary rest. You cradle the photo's image in your mind. The beach at sunset, two silhouettes framed in golden light. You promise silently, I will return to that warmth. The promise warms you more than any flame. As the shelter creaks under the storm's weight, you sit upright, resolve solidified. Pain, fear, and grief have been equal parts crucible and companion. Now memory and love are your anchor and compass. You tuck your journal photo and flares close and wrap the mylar blanket around your shoulders. Tomorrow dawns with new trials, but tonight you are unafraid. The tears have frozen, but the heart that shed them beats fierce and alive. You whisper into the storm, I choose life. You wake to an uneasy calm. The storm's fury has abated, leaving only a brittle stillness in its wake. The shelter is strewn with a fine layer of powdery snow that sifted through seams, and the stove's last embers have cooled to gray ash. You press your palm to the metal housing, no warmth remains. Rescue must come soon, and you know you must take the final, desperate step signal for help with firelight bright enough to pierce the Arctic dawn. You retrieve the flare gun from its holster. Its barrel is streaked with frost, the firing mechanism stiff but intact. Next, you gather broken fuselage shards, twisted strips of aluminum roofing panels you pried off the wing's frame, and drag them to your makeshift workstation, a patch of cleared snow near the entrance. You arrange them like flares of steel, each jagged edge reflecting pale light. Your ammunition is gone, but the flare gun's chamber fits small diameter metal rods. You fashion 4 rods by snapping off straight lengths of fuselage support struts, each about a foot long. You wrap their bases in soaked strips of insulation blanket, binding them tightly with cordage. These wrappings will serve as wicks soaked in the remaining traces of kerosene you pumped from the plane's fuel lines into a small canister, ensuring the rods ignite with a searing blaze. You dip the wick ends into the kerosene, your gloves absorbing droplets that sting upon contact. You count rods aloud, 1, 2, 3, 4, knowing that each must serve as both beacon and bet on your survival. Even a single successful flare could draw search helicopters still combing the area, but firing them risks attracting predators, curious wolves, or polar bears drawn by bright light in the vast white. Your breath fogs as you kneel and align the makeshift flares in a row on the snow. You rest the flare gun beside them and retrieve the last ration bar, inhaling its sweet aroma to steady your nerves. You draw a deep breath, savoring the calm before the gamble. Every muscle in your body protests, but your resolve is steel. You load the first rod into the gun's chamber, slotting its wick end firmly against the firing pin. You close the breech with a metallic click that echoes like destiny. You step outside the shelter, closing the entrance flap behind you and tucking cordage around your waist to secure the door against sudden gusts. The world is a study in monochrome, endless white under a pale gray sky. Ahead lies the expanse where you first lit the signal fire, a flat stretch of compacted snow that will showcase the flare's glow. You step onto it, knees buckling as the cold seeps through your parka. You sight the sky blank and heavy with cloud, but you know the search choppers fly low, eyes peeled for any sign of color against the ice. You level the flare gun upward at a 45-degree angle and press the trigger. A sharp crack resonates, and a bolt of orange flame erupts from the muzzle, searing the frigid air. The flare rod arced skyward, carving a fiery arc before settling to earth and igniting its insulated wick in a brilliant conflagration. Light blossoms around the base of the rod, sending up tongues of fire and plumes of oil-thick smoke. Your heart hammers as you retrieve the second rod and repeat the ritual. Each flare bursts upward and back to earth in a dance of sparks and smoke, painting the sky in strokes of molten gold. You fire the third and fourth rods in succession, stepping back with every blast as the heat ripples across the snow. The ground beneath your boots sizzles steam, rising like prayers to the overcast sky. You kneel beside the flaming rods and cup your hands over your eyes, peering through charred fumes to catch any movement overhead. The smoke drifts up in broad columns, black against pale gray, a stark signal of human life in the Arctic's desolation. Each flare burns with feral intensity, igniting hope and terror in equal measure. Minutes stretch into an agonizing eternity. Your wool mittens begin to scorch at the edges, and the insulation wicks smolder down to glowing coals. The blazes hiss and roar fill your ears, a symphony of fire against ice. You wipe sweat and soot from your brow, inhaling the acrid scent, and strain your gaze toward the heavens. At last, a distant hum fractures the stillness, a sound you know by heart. A search helicopter returning for another pass emerges beyond the firelight's glow. Its rotors slice through the low-hanging clouds, a promise of rescue reborn. You leap to your feet, adrenaline surging, and wave frantically smoke and sparks at your heels. The helicopter banks and descends, spotting the flaming rods almost instantly. You holler into the wind cloak of flame at your back as the aircraft's searchlight illuminates your silhouette. The pilot's shout is lost in the roar, but the gesture thumbs up. A wave carries across the void. Your gamble has paid off. The fire dims as the wicks burn out, but the helicopter hovers a mechanical guardian against the Arctic's wrath. You feel tears freeze on your cheeks, frozen beads of relief and triumph. You squat beside the dying embers, chest heaving, and salute the sky, salute your own resilience. The helicopter's skids touch down, sending a blast of wind that extinguishes the last flames. You push yourself to your feet, knees trembling, and step toward the aircraft, each stride an affirmation of life. You extend a hand to the crew chief, who offers a rope ladder. You grasp it, stalking your frozen knuckles into his steel-gloved hand, and climb aboard, leaving behind the flickering rods that signaled salvation. Inside the cabin, warmth envelops you, and you collapse onto the unyielding bench seats, eyes closed against the white glare outside. The crew chief tosses you a blanket and offers a nod, no words required. You cough a harsh crack in the still air and pull the blanket tight around your shoulders. The helicopter lifts off, and you watch the fire-laced rods shrink beneath you until they vanish into the swirling ice. In that moment, the gamble of light against the Arctic's indifference solidifies into triumph. You lay back and whisper, "Thank you, fire," as the machine carries you away from the frozen world that tested you and toward the warmth of life you fought so fiercely to save. You awaken to the steady hum of generators and the scent of coffee, a far cry from the Arctic's acrid frost. Light filters through the canvas walls of the base camp's medical tent, pale rays of dawn carving warm lines on the ice beyond. Your eyelids flutter open to faces medics in insulated parkas, expressions gentle but focused, their voices murmur encouragement. "Easy there. You're safe now. We've got you." Each word feels like a lifeline cast across a chasm. You shift every muscle stiff, and the medic at your side lifts your arm to check your pulse. Her gloved fingers press against your wrist, and for the first time in what feels like years, Your heartbeat doesn't rattle, like a loose engine, but steadies into a calm drum. You breathe in the tense, warm air, tasting sweetness instead of metal, and feeling relief bloom in your chest. Your gaze travels over the tent's interior cots, lined in neat rows, survival gear laid out on tables, satchels of medical supplies. A small heater crackles softly in the corner, radiating enough warmth to banish the chill from your bones. You sit up slowly, gingerly, bending knees that protest with every creak and pop. The medic offers a cup of steaming broth. You accept it with trembling hands. The broth's warmth sears through your chest, flooding your limbs with life-giving comfort. Outside the tent, the Arctic dawn heralds a sky streaked with rose and gold colors you thought you might never see again. You stand and shuffle to the entrance, peeling back the flap. The sight steals your breath, an endless expanse of white glittering under the young sun. In the distance, the helicopter's skid marks, where you were plucked, swoop across the ice like a promise. Campfires dot the landscape, each one a testament to human tenacity against nature's indifference. You step onto the hard-packed snow boots, crunching underfoot. A fellow survivor, one of the search team's specialists, approaches, offering a thermos of hot tea. You smile gratefully, holding the cup close until the heat seeps through your gloves. Tea warms you from the inside out, coaxing color back into your cheeks. You raise your head to the horizon, watching as the sun climbs higher, flooding the world with promise. Nearby, a group of rescuers gather around the remains of the plane, coordinating the next steps. Debris removal, environmental safeguards, data collection for end investigators. You observe them for a moment, an observer to your own past ordeal, and realize how far you've come since clawing through the ice. A member of the team, his parka emblazoned with SAR in bold letters, spots you and waves. You wipe condensation from your goggles and wave back, heart swelling with gratitude. As you walk back into camp, every step feels lighter. The weight of survival has lifted. Each footfall echoes hope instead of fear. Children from a nearby research station, bundled in bright snowsuits, approach you shyly, their eyes wide with curiosity. They hold out small drawings of flames and heart symbols of warmth and life. You kneel and accept them, words unnecessary. Their bright faces remind you that life carries on even here at the edge of the world. You make your way to a larger tent marked Command, where a coordinator greets you warmly and asks for your statement. Your voice is hoarse, but you recount the crash, the isolation, the crack of ice, the hunger, the fire, and the signal flare that lit your rescue. You watch him nod, taking notes, absorbing every detail. Each sentence recalls the trials etched into your memory, but also underscores the miracle of your survival. Emerging from the command tent, you notice a small crowd gathered around a makeshift display of photographs and notes from survivors past and present. There, pinned next to tales of polar explorers and shipwreck victims, is a photo of you, blurred, battered, but triumphant, waving in your orange parka beside a flare in full blaze. You touch the image gently, a smile tugging at your lips as tears blur your vision. It's a portrait of hope made real. A team medic offers to examine your feet and hands frostbite, now stabilized, but still in danger. You roll up a sleeve and lift a pant leg. Each exposed inch of skin reveals mottled purple patterns, scars of the fight. The medic cleans the wounds and wraps them in fresh dressings, her touch professional but kind. Pain flickers with every swipe of gauze, but you endure it with a resolute nod. These injuries are badges of your defiance, proof you refuse to yield. Later, you join the rescuers for a brief debrief around a communal fire pit. They share stories of the search's challenges, whiteouts shifting ice, mechanical failures, but also small triumphs, discovering debris, interpreting footprints, and finally, trailing your signal flare's smoke. You listen humbled, realizing your survival was not solely your own doing, but the sum of countless efforts and small acts of courage. As the sun climbs higher, you feel the day's first warmth seep through your parka, melting the last threads of frost from your collar. Birds, snow, buntings, and gerfalcons circle overhead, tiny sparks of life in the vast canvas. You watch one land on a nearby ice block, its plumage puffed against the cold, a reminder that life persists in the harshest places. You exhale a slow release of breath that carries relief and gratitude. The camp's bustle continues around you. Equipment checks, satellite calls, supply drops, but you stand still, absorbing the dawn's promise. In the distance, the ridge where you fought for your life looms, its silhouette softened by morning light. You resolve that no matter how far you travel from this frozen expanse, the lessons learned here will define you forever. A hand rests on your shoulder, your rescuer from the search team, now relaxed and smiling. Ready to head home? He asks quietly. You nod, eyes sweeping the camp one last time. Your journey back will be long, but each step will carry the resilience forged in ice and flame. You lift your gaze to the rosy horizon, whispering a vow you will live, fully honor your survival, and carry this dawn's hope wherever you go. The Arctic tested you, but when morning broke, you stood unbroken proof that even the coldest night yields to the warmth of life. You feel the pull of departure as evening's amber light stretches the camp's shadows across the ice. Supplies are packed, equipment stowed, and transport arranged, yet you linger by the tattered tail section of the plane where a small plaque commemorates those lost. The wind whispers through the fuselage's ribs, carrying echoes of your ordeal, the crash's violence, the storm's roar, the crack of the lake beneath your boots. You stand before that hollow monument, heart heavy, and place a gauntleted hand on its frost-coated metal. In that moment, the Arctic is no longer an adversary, but a teacher, its indifference tempered by your refusal to succumb. The rescuers gather around you, their breath visible in the cooling air. One kneels and places a small token in your hand, an engraved dog tag recovered from the wreckage with your name etched in black. The weight of it in your palm is both tangible and symbolic identity reclaimed. You nod, swallowing emotion, and slip the tag into your parka's inner pocket over your heart. Darkness drapes its velvet cloak early in these high latitudes, but tonight the sky glows with the northern lights, ribbons of green and purple that dance silently above. You tilt your head back, eyes tracing their ethereal ballet. The colors shimmer, and fade, painting hope across the infinite dome. You remember the flare's glow, the signal that summoned rescue. Now the heavens themselves light your farewell. A solemn hush falls over the group as you begin the trek to your extraction point, awaiting snowcat that will carry you across miles of frozen ocean to the safety of a supply ship. Each step echoes with quiet reverence for the lives changed here, for the survival hard won through fire and grit, for the fragile bonds between humanity and nature's indifferent beauty. Your boots press into fresh snow, leaving footprints that mark your passage testaments to a journey that began with a crash and ends with purpose. You pause at a small cairn of stones, rocks you gathered on day one when you first set out from the wreck. You place another stone atop the pile, a silent vow to return one day under different circumstances as a visitor guided by curiosity rather than survival. You brush the cairn with frost and step back, honoring the marker before pressing on. The snowcat's distant growl grows louder, harmonizing with the crackle of the aurora-lit night. You approach the vehicle, its tracks burning shallow lines through the snow. The driver, bundled against the cold, offers a nod. You climb aboard, heart pounding, as the snowcat lurches forward, treads biting into the frozen expanse. Inside the cabin, the heater hums warmly, and you settle into the driver's seat. The interior lights glow soft amber, reflecting your image in the frosted windshield. You watch the tail of the plane recede in your side mirror, its silhouette a reminder of both loss and renewal. You reach into your pocket fingers, brushing the dog tag, and close your hand around it. It's a talisman of survival, a promise kept. The snowcat climbs the gentle rise to the ship's landing point, where the supply vessel's lights pierce the Arctic gloom. Mastheads flash against the dark, and you spot the rescue team waving from the deck. Your breath catches at the sight of human warmth glowing beyond the ice. The snowcat's engine rumbles to a halt, and you step down onto the metal gangway, boots echoing on steel. Crew members rush forward, wrapping you in blankets, guiding you across the gangway and into the ship's heated hull. The doors slide shut behind you, with a pneumatic hiss sealing out the Arctic's chill. You inhale the humid warmth of the passageway, heart swelling with gratitude, and an unexpected lightness survival's epilogue. Once inside, you stand before a window overlooking the ice fields. The northern lights shimmer still, as if bidding you farewell. You trace their dance with your eyes and whisper thank you for the journey. Behind you, voices murmur greetings and congratulations. You turn, offering a tired smile and a nod. The ship's hum blends with laughter and relief, a symphony of life reclaimed from the frozen void. As the vessel's engines engage and the bow begins to cut through the ice, you lean against the corridor wall, feeling the gentle sway. Ahead lies a world of warmth, reunion, and stories waiting to be told. Behind the Arctic holds its secrets, its silent testament to human endurance, and the fragile dance between despair and hope. You close your eyes, breathe in the warmth, and feel the weight of survival settle into calm determination. You have crossed the threshold from desperation into life's embrace. Every step, every blister, every flame has led to this moment. You press your hand to your chest, where the dog tag rests a silent vow echoing in your mind to live fully, share your story, and honor the resilience born in ice and fire. Your journey began with violence, a plane's fatal impact on unyielding ice, estranging you from warmth and hope. In that crucible of cold, you clawed back with sheer will, transforming wreckage into shelter metal, into tools and ice, into sustenance. You endured hunger that gnawed at bones, thirst that cracked your throat, and frostbite's creeping numbness that threatened your mobility. Each trial forged grit. You melted snow over feeble flames, harvested raw fish from freezing streams, and coaxed embers from drenched tinder. Night after endless night, you bonded with fear, sorrow, and loneliness, using memory as both salve and spear, drawing strength from loved ones' faces etched in a faded photograph. You reinforced your sanctuary against storms, signaled with fire and flares, and navigated treacherous ice fields to claim driftwood and rescue. The Arctic tested every sinew of your resolve, but you emerged unbroken. Rescue arrived amid flaming rods, roaring engines, and auroras that danced like silent applause. Back in camp, you exchanged frostbitten limbs for gentle warmth and shared stories with fellow survivors under rosy dawn skies. The crash site, once a tomb, became a monument to survival's stubborn spark. Now, aboard a vessel, cutting through the ice, you gaze at the northern lights, ethereal echoes of your signal and the unquenchable fire within. Your scars on skin in memory and on the dog tag over your heart bear witness to a journey that transformed despair into defiance, loneliness into fellowship, and the Arctic's indifference into a testament of human resilience. You step confidently into warmth and life, carrying the cold's lessons in every breath and every heartbeat.